What's up, Ida? How you doing, my friend? Welcome, welcome. It's Thursday Night Live. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you had a good day today. Earlier today, I put a post on my Facebook page, and he talked about resistance. And of course, to understand anything, you first have to understand what he means and where it comes from. And so I looked up the definition for resistance, and it says, resistance is the refusal to accept or comply with something. The attempt to prevent something by action or argument. They give the example of, she put up no resistance to being led away. Synonyms is to be in opposition to, in hostility to, or refusal to accept. Now, I was doing a little bit more reading about it, and, resistance requires and it implies that there's a need to protect ourselves and to strengthen our own power. And so I had asked, how do some of us feel resistance? How does that play out in your life, especially our resistance to change? Does it hurt you? Does it help you? And a lot of people give great feedback. I love what my friend and colleague Jody says. Resistance is arguing with what is, and that equals stress. My friend Jeff says 70% of our life, that's pretty much what we do. My friend Christy, she goes that resistance hurts her because it's a form of control for her. And I definitely agree with that. Especially when we feel uncertainty, when uncertainty kicks in, we begin to resist. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know what the outcome is gonna be. Maybe we're afraid of something. There's probably a little bit of fear there. And so we begin to resist. My friend Catherine says, it's interesting that this comes up today. I was just pondering how I feel resistance from others when I'm incorporating positive changes into my life. Not everyone responds positively, and that can be scary because I'm moving outside of my own comfort zone. And that's a different aspect because I hadn't thought about it like that. Like the resistance that others are going to give you when you're trying to make positive changes for your life. And so that is scary, especially if some of these people are close to you. They're like some of your closest people. My friend Ida, of course. I love Ida. Well, I love everyone here. It's just Ida was one of my first clients. So we go way back. So Ida says, I have learned if I resist, it will persist. And it took me a long time to figure this out. However, each time I resist a change in my life, when I let it go, it becomes a beautiful thing. It says, most importantly, I learned something new about me or the life around me. Today, I'm so focused on the path of the least resistance, and I remain open-minded. When I feel the resistance, and it's always in me, I know there's a lesson coming in, and I get open-minded. I smile because I look forward to the lesson. That is so true. Anytime we encounter resistance in a particular area of our life, I know I did. I remember fighting and resisting. Resistance includes some type of fighting. I'm fighting with what is. Like Jody was saying, arguing with what is. It's because there's growth. There's huge growth on the other side of that. Something amazing is going to happen. But if we don't get in the habit of trusting that, then it can be really scary, and that's where the resistance comes. But when you can feel that there's conflict, there's a little bit of a push and pull. Not that the push and the pull and the conflict isn't a good thing, because it can be a good thing. I think great things can come out of kind of rubbing each other the wrong way a little bit. There can be growth there. But at the same time, sometimes when you're met with resistance, maybe it's time to change directions, When you're met with the winds of change. I was watching, and I always talk about the Avatar, the Last Airbender show. And I've said this before. There was a scene where they were training how to bend air. They're airbenders and earthbenders, and they manipulate the elements of the earth. And they were teaching someone had to bend air, and so they put her in this contraption that once you put air through it, it starts to spin. There's like these paddles or this like that would spin, and you have to it's kind of like a maze, and you have to work your way through the maze, and it's creating more wind turbulence for you. And he teaches her, because she screws it up at the beginning. Of course, it's the first time. He says when you're met with resistance, boom, resistance, you need to switch direction and go with where the wind is trying to take you. Because more often than not, you're going to end up in a better place. And when she did that, she was able to get through the maze of those paddles, make it to the other side. My friend Blake says resistance is futile. Futile. Yeah, it can be. And my friend Brenda, she wrote she sure shared, man. I remember when I first met you, Brenda, you wouldn't share. You were like, I don't normally share, but I shared. So she says, resistance, story of my life. Especially when it comes to big life changes. Definitely agree with that. Or making positive changes for oneself. I can pretty much deal with outside resistance. Always have. It never really affected me profoundly, like dealing with resistance coming from within myself. Excellent point. Because yes, you can have resistance from the outside. But what about the resistance that you're creating? It's really important. And then it says, I think that for most of us beings, that's the biggest challenge to face, because although we all want acceptance or want to fit in with the world around us when making life choices, whether positive or not, being okay with oneself and at peace with yourself because of those changes, to me, it is what's most fulfilling and most important. Resistance, whether outside or coming in from oneself, is important. I believe it's what helps mold us as individuals and help us become the person we are today. I am my own greatest resistance, always a work in progress. Yeah, that's an excellent perspective, excellent point. So how does resistance show up in your world? I mean, how do you deal with resistance? Usually, I mean, I would say that usually is when we're losing something. Like she was saying, when big life changes come, you know, losing a loved one, losing a job, you know, usually around losing something or someone. Maybe losing an opportunity that you thought you wanted, or maybe, but there's something about going through big life transition changes, and of course it has to do with uncertainty, and then the resistance that we experience. Because what happens is we think that we're used to a certain norm, right? We're used to a certain way of things being a certain way, and then here comes this big experience that's causing change, and then we don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know what the new norm is going to be like. But one thing that I always encourage people to do is to trust the change. To trust that the new norm is going to be a new, more evolved one. You know, it's the old one is falling off for a new, more evolved one to take its place. And I think resistance can be a good indicator, like what Ida was saying, that change and growth is around the corner. So instead of looking at resistance as a negative thing, or look at it as a friend that's coming to let you know, hey, something great is on the other side of this. Oftentimes, you know, when we're making decisions that could potentially be really good for us, or decisions that threaten who we've known to be, who we've believed to be to this point. I know for a fact one of the last times that I experienced resistance was when I was going to go to that the first class that you've heard me and Jody talk about in the past. Just recently, my friend Katie went through that class, and my friend Vanessa's husband went through that class. It's a class for self-leadership. It's a class for self-love. It's a class to heal and grow. But what happens is that you're going to find out something that you didn't know, that maybe you didn't want to know. And the assumption is that, well, maybe there's something wrong with me, and I don't want to know if there is. Because if there's something wrong with me, then I'm a failure, or that I'm not the person I thought I was. Because we all give ourselves certain roles, or other people. We align ourselves with certain people that give us certain roles, and we play the role. And if we go to these classes, and there's a potential of losing the person or the identity that I've been to this point, and that's scary. I know it's scary to lose the identity of who you thought you've been. But if you don't go through that process, you'll never reach within your potential to see what else is there. How much further can you go? It's like the explorers back in the day, sailing the ocean. Did y'all see the movie Moana? If you didn't see it, watch it. It's a great movie. But her people used to be explorers. They would explore the open sea and push the edge and see what's out there. What's further? How far can we go? What haven't we explored? It's the same for you. You're an infinite universe of potential. You're telling me that you're going to want to stay within one identity, within certain parameters, within certain boundaries, because that's what you're used to? When there's so much of you out there, there's so much of you in you that can go out there. So when you're pushing the edges, when there's fear of losing your identity that you've thought you are, maybe you're losing something that's limiting. That could be something better. And guess what? You never lose anything, because even for me, as an example, when it was scary for me to quit dance professionally, or to the extent that I was doing it full time, performing, teaching, choreography, traveling, it was scary because that was Angel the dancer. But if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I wouldn't have explored what else is there for Angel. I wouldn't have explored how much further I could go. And guess what? I can still dance. I can still dance. I can still go back in that scene, and I can still work there however way I wanted to be. Before, I was limited to only working in one certain way, in a certain parameters and certain boundaries. So don't be afraid to explore the depth of you. How far can you go? How high can you go? Remember, your identity is just an idea. It's like clothes in your closet. You can have so many that you can put on. So be willing to explore who you are, and take the risk, and be curious about yourself and life. And so when resistance comes, all right, here we go. Let's see where this is going to take me. Let's experience some growth. Let's see who I'm going to be after this. Uncertainty, resistance can be your friend. Don't let it be an enemy. So how do you do it? Just be curious. Be curious about life. When you feel the uncertainty kicking in, turn it into curiosity. That's interesting. I wonder what that means. Do research, talk to friends, read a book. Find out more about it. If it scares you, how do you get rid of fear? Understanding. Get more information about it. That's one way. When something scares you, get more information. You can do the same thing when you're experiencing resistance. Don't believe the story of fear going on in your head. Give yourself the chance to get more information. Be curious about that which you're afraid of, about that which you're resisting, and take the risk. Take the risk. You won't regret it. And if it's not what it is, you can always go back to what you were doing before. Because you never lose it. You transcend who you are, and you include it. You don't lose it. It's always going to be with you. All right, I love you. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Make some comments, share with your friends, like it. If you have topic ideas, let me know what you want to hear. I'm always willing to do it and to bring it to life. It's every Thursday at 6:30, so look for the next one next week, okay? I love y'all. Take care.